differ? Like, been at the booth this week. Hey, what is this thing? So I'll just frame it up, and then we'll talk about how does it differ from Office volume license bits and deployment process. We'll walk through the demos of how we manage users, how we can deploy it, how we can manage it, how we troubleshoot it, and we'll give you a sneak peek of an upcoming Microsoft assessment planning tool that will provide a 365 assessment. Who am I? I'm Brian Shires, product manager in the Office group. Look after IT Pro and developer audiences. Spend a lot of my time thinking about Office compatibility and general best practice for deploying Office. So, you may have seen this slide. If you've been to our Office 365 page, you've seen this. So maybe before we get started here, how many of you already signed up for the 365 beta? Everybody should. It's an easy way to get started. It's free. It's quick. Get going. A good way to be able to see what all the capabilities are. So why do we have 365? Well, one of the driving factors of this is that we want people to experience Office the way it was meant to be, without the requirement and the complexity of setting up and maintaining your own servers. There's several things in the Office client that light up once I have the proper back-end services running. It's things that are like presence embedded in documents, powered by Lync Online through the Lync services. Co-authoring that I can do in Word and PowerPoint, OneNote, Excel. Hey, those all require SharePoint services to be able to do these things. An Exchange Online, bringing rich email features, cool new things like mail tips, like let you know, hey, before you spend half an hour crafting this mail, this person's already out of the office, so you just move on. All those things, all those services make the Office Pro Plus kind of light up and have all the rich things that you get the most value out of the client itself. So hopefully that gives you kind of a view of what are the components within there. Now, Exchange Online, SharePoint Online, Lync Online usually resonate pretty well with folks. And hey, that makes sense. You're running our servers in the cloud. I'm accessing those services. What about Office Pro Plus? Office Pro Plus, does that mean Office Pro Plus is just Office in a browser? Is it streamed to me? Is it virtualized? No. Office Pro Plus and Office 365 is still a full, rich client suite. It's the same applications that are included in Office Pro Plus 2010, or in our typical enterprise volume license SKU. So it's Word, it's Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote. It's all those applications for you to install through an MSI, through a setup.exe, on the metal, on the client machines. What's different then? It's pay as you go. It's part of the service. So, you get the most value by having all this together. So we're going to change this to saying, okay, we're going to pay as you go. So we're going to change our activation philosophy. We're also going to change how we think about licensing this. In the VL world, you have one license per device. In 365 and Pro Plus, you have per user, but each user then gets to install on up to 5 machines simultaneously. So I have users that have a desktop and a couple notebooks. That's great. I have one subscription for them, one account, one license. It takes care of all their devices, up to 5. As I mentioned, the same apps we get in Pro Plus, but we still have, it doesn't mean you don't have access to the web apps. Web apps are hosted on SharePoint Online, so you're going to have access to those. So I get to do the great things of, on a SharePoint document library, quickly view it in the web app, and I now have the ability to go jump over and do rich client editing, because those are installed on the client machines. 365 Office Pro Plus is available in beta and going forward in 32 and 64-bit. So same thing we offer in VL, so you can make your choice there. Sessions this week earlier will give you recommendations on where to start with that, but they're both available. And for beta, we have 16 languages supported, with plans to support more post-beta. So the one thing that really changed here is activation and user management, right? So we go from managing keys, or we go away from managing keys to managing the users. So how do I do that? I go to the Office 365 admin portal. I'm going to have my users maintained there. At a basic perspective, I'm going to define each user. I'm going to assign each user a license type. And the screenshot you're seeing here is from the beta. You provided 2 different license types. You provided an Enterprise E3 SKU. That's the SKU, the minimum SKU where you get Office Pro Plus. So you can see here we have different options, or the services within a license type, which determine what the user can actually take advantage of. The other license plan that's included in the beta is a kiosk plan. The kiosk plan does not include Office Pro Plus. So that is meant for, as it's stated there, a kiosk worker, a worker who occasionally needs, they need email access and they need to consume just a few documents so they can consume that through the web browser. So everything we're going to talk about today assumes you're rolling out E3 license types to your user. So just to frame that up, hey, this is the requirement to get what we're talking about today. User management options usually comes up, and there's been separate sessions on this. How do I get these users in here? Because this seems like this is going to be a big task. There's different ways we can do that. We can do manual, and I'll show you a very basic manual way, probably where everybody's going to start in beta. I can do directory sync, and I can do federation. So obviously, the level of complexity to set up increases as we get on that, but the level of happiness of our users and administrators, goes up as well. So we can build this over time. So with that, I'm going to jump over to a demo here and give you a view of what this user setup process looks like. So, pardon me, I didn't close my browser here. So I'm going to log on to the 365 portal. So I've just gone to portal on MicrosoftOnline.com. So I'm a beta customer just like everyone else. I've already signed up for my tenant, so I'm going to log on as myself, who's the local admin. If I remember my password. Now, the view we're initially going to get here is an admin view. Of course, end users have a slightly different view. But for this discussion, I'm in the admin view here, as you can see up at the top. And the admin has various sections they can use. So how do I set up this plan? How do I manage it? How do I manage subscriptions? And where do I get support? A couple things I want to highlight here. First, we mentioned the license types that we have assigned. So in the beta, we're all getting 25 E3s and 25 K1s. You see, I've provisioned out a fair number of these already. So the beta is actually pre-purchased my license types. And now as I assign users, I can keep a quick snapshot of who's assigned to what license type. So it forces us to be better about how we manage our Office usage, rather than VL World, I have a KMS server, and I just let clients hit it, and we eventually do a true up. This actually moves you to a more proactive mode, and you understand who all the users are that are actually using these bits. So everything's tied to users. So let's look at our users. So you have a fair number of users already defined in here. You see myself and a few other demo users, some of my friends in here. Let's just walk through the new user creation process once so you get a view of what that looks like. So we're going to start manual. Imagine this can be automated through scripts. This can be automated through directory sync to pull my users in, or domain federation. There's going to be one step I'm going to comment on that's very unique, that is about the license type assignment. So we'll watch for that. So I can do manual user creation, one-off, or bulk users. I'm going to choose to do bulk because I don't want to type. So we give you the option to upload a CSV file. Very basic. super easy. We can give you a blank template. You can download a sample template and just adjust it. I've already created one. I'll just go ahead and open it so you see what it looked like. Here my local machine. So I just created a user CSV file. We'll open that in Excel. We're going to add a couple users to our 365 account. So I'm going to add Quentin and I'm going to add Kate. I can define basic information about what organization they belong to, and it's going to load up their account name. What do I want to assign them to? So okay, let's go ahead and load them up then. So I just browse, grab my file. And we'll go ahead and add both of these users at once. One thing that's going to happen now is it's going to ask me a couple, or confirm that, yes, indeed, my 2 users. I have no errors. That's great. Let's go ahead and move on. If I click the log, it's confirming the details I've loaded. I need to set the status. So in the CSV file, I can't set their location, and I also need to confirm if they're ready for logon. So I'm going to go ahead and create all these and have them block status. So I can pre-stage this information. So I need to define their location. This, if you click on the more information, we need this information to confirm what features they're going to be allowed to use based on markets. So we're going to go ahead and ask that. We're going to set this. And this is the part I want to drill into. So now we have to say which license type. I'm actually giving them access to whichever plan is appropriate. So both these users, we're going to do an E3 plan for. You see here, I have the option to take away select services. Be clear, you can't piecemeal and save partial license types. A license type is a all or nothing. So once I click this upper E3, that's a count of 1. It doesn't matter if I go take away Office Pro Plus. It does give us the ability to keep a user from using a certain service if we don't want them to do that, but it does not save you. It doesn't batch that up for reprovisioning to someone else. So to complete, we just say next, and the way we're going to get the account information out, we'll see it here on screen, but we also send an email. If we're doing bulk creation, be aware that you'll get one single mail for all the users you create. So I'm going to go ahead and send it back to myself here in 365. So we're going to do create. So I'll get my confirmation of my 2 users being created. They'll be ready to go. So that's all there is. And this is not only creating the user account for the general 365, but I've also said, hey, you now have access, and you're ready to go. Every user to get started with 365 and the Office Pro Plus client in 365 will need to have a valid working account with the right license type assigned so they can get started. So that's the reason we start there to build up, what do you need to do first? We got to make sure our accounts are in place. So let's walk through. I've done the first bit. User has the information. So there's several ways that customers will end up distributing that account information. I can send it directly to the user. I can do a paper-based distribution, however is appropriate within your policy. The user now has their information. How are they going to get started? We're going to walk through the very basic way of provisioning Op 365. The user starts off with their information, goes to the 365 company portal. Once they hit the portal, the first setup, one of the things we ask them to do, hey, assuming we're doing self-service here, we'll walk through a managed scenario a little bit later, is you need to get Office Client to get all the goodness out of this. What they're going to do is they're actually going to do a self-service download. So they're going to pull down the whole set of bits, gears spin, we install Office Pro Plus. What's different, when the Office Pro Plus completes its installation, rather than asking for a key or admin providing them a key, it's going to pop up and say, hey, sign into 365 to activate your Office subscription. So you get a new dialog, reaches into the Office Pro Plus activation engine. It takes that information, those credentials, phones home. So this user, key part here, that user has actually got to go back and talk to phone home to Microsoft to do the activation. So a good thing to be aware of. Like you're thinking about where these users are getting set up, make sure they have connectivity, and there's some services we can look at later to ensure that that pipe is open, that we can actually reach back out to that service. Through 365, it's doing two things. It's verifying that user account exists, they have the right license type with that service activated. Once that check is met, it says, okay, you're great, we're going to give you a 30-day subscription key, applies it back into Office and changes the status from needing activation to activated. At that point, we're good, the user keeps working, but once a month, we're going to reach back out, we're going to repeat this process. The user is not prompted for their credentials again. It's all seamless to the user. As long as that user has a valid subscription, has the credentials that remain in 365, this will continue in perpetuity as long as they have a valid subscription. Scenarios if the user is terminated, or if it's a contractor, maybe they were working under your account and they've left and you've turned off their account, this cycle closes down pretty quickly. They have, once a month we check. If we start failing, we'll give you 30 days past the end of your last activation. And then what it actually does is it goes into RFM mode, so it becomes a viewer. It's different than VL bits. VL bits never go into RFM mode. The Office Pro Plus subscription bits do have a built-in RFM mode. That's the only way we can control that because we're based totally on subscriptions. We have to make sure that those users are actually valid users within the defined tenant. So let's actually look at what that looks like then. So I'm going to jump over. We're going to use a video to do this because partly we need the magic of time warp because the install takes quite some time, obviously, if you've ever installed Office. So I'm just going to run through this video and I'll talk you through our process. So as I mentioned before, how am I going to get the information to the user? So I've emailed this out. I could have done a direct email one-off to the user. User receives this mail. Hey, here's your username, your temporary password. Gives them the instructions of what to do. Obviously, you can customize this, redeliver customized messaging, giving them more explicit instructions on how you want it to do. But in short, it's go to the portal site, enter your temporary name, sign on, and it'll ask you to make a new password. It's an important reason that we're going to cover this change your password thing, because it actually has an impact on the initial activation. You need to make sure that each user has taken care of this process first, has a valid working ID, not a temporary ID, when they first attempt to activate Office. And you'll see that here shortly. So users just simply, doing a typical thing. I maintain my user credentials, and we're good to go. User then signs back onto the portal. Again, this is the scenario. We're doing, little or no IT here, or maybe it's just beta testers and say, hey, here's your account. Go tear up, go sign up. They're going to come in, get their initial home page. They're not an admin, but over on the right in the resources, they can get started with downloads. The downloads list this out. Steps 1, 2, 3. Here's what you do. Install Pro Plus. Easy enough, right? A big warning here, big warning box. Just as we do with VL, by default, it will remove existing versions of Office. So if they have 2003 or 2007 or prior versions, those would be removed by default. The user themselves makes a selection what language, what locale I want to enter or to install, and also they make the decision about 32 and 64-bit, which is one of the reasons we'll talk about how do I do this in a managed way. Simply, a user gets to save this package. Note it's 770 plus megs. Okay, I don't want to have a whole lot of that coming down, but it is a simple self-install process. I'd repeat the same for the Lync client itself. So it's distributed in a similar fashion, not part of the same package, but follows the exact same process. So Lync client setup, I'm going to pull that down and I can install it local. And lastly, we have this component that's called desktop setup. If you're familiar with 365, it's the connector of old. So rather than calling it an explicit product, we want to refer to it as a process step. So it's desktop. we're going to wait and run that until afterwards. And we'll look at, there's reasons to do that because we're going to do some updates to Office. So we want to get Office and Lync laid down before we do any updates. So again, I'm the user. I've downloaded my bits. I'm going to come in and I have my two things I've downloaded, Lync and Office. Office, in this case, if you're in the managed world, Office doesn't usually look like that. It looks like a whole mess of things with setup.exe. This is provided as a single executable file. More of a retail type of experience, or home and business look and feel from an installer perspective. User can choose to install straight away, come in, customize, choose which apps get installed. It's up to the user to make these choices. We as IT don't get to control that if we go down this self-service path. I get control file location, where it's installed. Important bit to remember here is Office Pro Plus and this Pro Plus in 365 uses the same technology as 2010 does, has a local install source, so that's all getting cached local and MSO cache, so we can easily do repairs and updates later. So it uses that same setup infrastructure that Core Office uses. Voila, we've moved ahead in time and our installation is complete. Same dialog as you usually see, but there's something different occurring now. First thing we're going to get prompted with is service sign-in being required. So I have not yet pulled down the sign-on assistant for 365. So Office Setup realizes this. I need this to be able to do initial activation, pulls it down, installs it. And now we get the prompt to say, hey, sign on with your 365 credentials. And this is how we're going to verify your subscription. And those are the credentials we're going to use going forward. Important bit there is if I would use my temporary credentials at that point in time, activation would not have been successful. In our case, we changed that password, so we're quite happy at this point. So what do we get now? We go into Start menu, Office is installed. How can I tell that it's actually Office Pro Plus subscription versus being VL bits? Easiest way is in the backstage. So File and any application, go to Help. Up here we can say we show it's activated. Okay, that looks the same as it does everywhere else. But down here in About, we actually see that it indicates it's subscription. So that's the quickest, easiest way to tell it's a subscription-based product. Excuse me. So we can continue through this process. We'd install Lync. We're not going to go through that at this point. We're going to come back to the element we did not take care of. We said, hey, we're going to wait and run the desktop setup until after I've installed Office Pro Plus. So desktop setup comes down as a click once app, almost 2 megs download here. It's going to launch a dialog after we sign in and verify I have all the prereqs installed. And I kind of jokingly refer to this thing as the patcher and configurator. Right? It's doing a couple things for us. So it's verifying we have the right elements installed and also doing configurations for SharePoint. I didn't have Lync installed, so it's not going to configure Lync. But it's also going to tell me, hey, you need to install the proper online services assistant, and we actually need this patch for Outlook 2010. So that's going to manage that whole process. It's going to be a nice dialogue for me to accept the terms that I'm installing. It's going to go ahead and take care of all these actions for the user. So you can see here, from a self-service perspective, it's quite easy. Go to the portal. I get all my bits. I follow the process 1, 2, 3. Pretty straightforward. So you can see we complete the install, it'll reboot, and then the user's off and running. So that's great. We can do kind of self-managed or self-IT, self-service IT deployment of Office Pro Plus. Certainly where a lot of people will start. If you have no IT, it's a great solution because everything's on the web. My bits are managed for me, ready to go. I can push it out. Service is already running, so once Office is installed, I'm ready to go. I'm going to set a kind of frame of reference here. Okay, you're thinking about how do I deploy this in an enterprise? Let's first compare this, contrast this to what we would do in a volume license world. So with Office 2010 Volume License Edition, so Standard or Pro Plus, what are the different options I can use to deploy at a high level? So I can do basic network share deployments, some basic scripting on it. So it gives me a limited control, fairly easy to set up from an IT perspective, but doesn't take much infrastructure. But I don't get to tons of infrastructure ready to go here. Managed deployment methods, using light touch or zero touch, software distribution tools, config manager, or Altiris, whatever you have there. They also have virtualization options, so AppV or maybe Citrix or remote app. Now, okay, keep that in mind. How does that change when you get into Office Pro Plus? One, to be clear, the Office Pro Plus bits in 365 don't support AppV deployments, and we also can't use presentation virtualization. And it's not that we don't just recommend it, but you can try, but it won't work. Each for their own reasons, but it has mainly to do with how we're changing the activation model. So those are much different approaches. So what are our options in 365? You saw Portal, but we can also continue to support network share and manage deployments. So that's good news, right? We want to get some control over this thing. Self-service install, great place to start, great place for some organizations, but maybe I have an IT group, I want to actually take control of this. So there's ways to do this. One of the sticking points that often comes up when we talk with IT pros on this is, how do I think about this desktop setup thing? What is it doing? Is that required? Does every user have to run that? You saw briefly what it did there. It updates the PCs in the 365 to work with the 365 services. So it detects what's installed, says, hey, you need these required patches. It also configures the clients. So for SharePoint Online, it puts that into my trusted locations, sets up the proper link connection. So by default, we can run this by demand by users. Obviously, everything we've looked at in self-service assumes you have admin rights. There's a question in the back, I think. So the question is, when the desktop setup can download, attempts to download if there's a problem there on the download. Okay, so can I roll? Just for recording? Can I roll back the patch that it applied? Right. The patches that we're applying. Well, the patches that we applied for 2010. No, that's one single KB is a hotfix. We can't roll that one back. Now, there's depending on your scenario, it can be applying a service pack, and some of those service packs can be rolled back. So it depends. But it depends on the patches that applied and the rules that apply according to that patch. So by default, especially in the 2010 world, if I did the 365 client, no, you can't roll that one particular patch back. But understand that for 2010, for the Office 365 Office Pro Plus element, there's 1 KB that's being installed, and it's about Outlook connectivity. So pretty low risk. We're going to get a lot more updates through SP1 that's coming into this month and cumulative updates that have been included. So your only recourse is start over. You'd have to remove it to remove that update. So let's walk through the process. If I'm an IT shop and I have management software, how could I take Office Pro Plus from the portal and deliver it to my end users in a managed method, so that I'm not dependent on each user going to the portal, downloading a big file, making the selection about 32 or 64, I want to get control of these things and maybe package other things. And actually, perhaps, hey, let's even try to figure out if we can take care of the execution of the desktop setup piece for them. So kind of a 4-step process we'll walk through in this. First, we're going to gather all the source. So I need to go to the portal and get the bits. That's the only place you can get these bits. If you have an existing VL, you can't go to Volume License Center and get the bits. They're Office 365 bits. So you go there. So admins can go there and get the bits. Since I'm going to want to customize this and control it, the way I do that in a nice, easy to manage method is with the Office customization tool. It's not actually included these bits, but it's available. So we'll go gather that up. Oh, with that sign-in assistant we saw it was installing, we're going to gather that. And we're also going to gather all those required patches, or that one required patch. So we're kind of bump back and forth here, and we're going to go through this process. So we'll gather source. We'll prepare the source bits. We'll talk about how we can customize it, and then walk through the start of a task sequence build, deploying it through MDT. So we'll come back over here. Let's move ahead. So I'm an admin. Let's set this up. I'm going to go start this process. So first things I want to do is gather my bits. So again, I want to gather Office Pro Plus. Admin goes to the admin portal. You don't have to go there. You could have been a user. They're going to download, and they're going to download the Office Pro Plus bits. This is nice because now I get to control 32, 64. Okay, I want to make sure all my users are this. But actually, in my organization, I want to roll out 2 languages. It's possible to do that with 365. We'll walk through. So I'm going to start off. I'm going to download both of those packages. So we'll download English x86. And then we'll repeat this, and we'll also get the Spanish version as well. So it's great. I have both sources available to me. Question in the back. I don't think I could hear that. Can you repeat it again? It had to do. Okay, so the question is, can I default the language that's initially set for selection? Well, yes, because it's based on the profile of the user that you created. So when I created those users, it depends on the locale that we defined in their user setup. So when you saw me before, like, so so you should be able to control that based on the language setup. We can follow up and kind of walk through that scenario afterwards and make sure we're answering the right question there. So the user now has downloaded, or the admin has downloaded both English and Spanish bits. So okay, here they're great, they're local. Couple problems. It's one monster package, and if I wanted to deploy both, I don't want to run setup twice, so we'll have to do some work here in a bit to make those work together. So let's just stick in the path of gathering all of our bits. The other thing we said we needed the admin tools, the Office customization tool. The way you're going to get that, you're going to go to Download Center, and in the admin template download package, it actually includes the admin tools that are prepackaged with the VL bits. Free download, I'm going to pull that down. So I'm going to pull down the 32-bit version of those. I'm going to pull those down, and we'll be able to take out of there the piece that we need to do a nice managed customization of our Office deployment package. So great, I have Office Pro Plus bits. I now have source for my admin template, which includes the OCC tool. But I said, hey, I also wanted to carry out the steps that the desktop setup carries out. So we can look in downloads, and if you look here, I have the option to say how to manually install updates. Oh, it's actually documented for us on the portal. We can scroll down here, and this is depends on your current environment, the number of patches is going to be required. Ours is quite simple because we're already up to date here. So for everybody, they're going to need the Online Service Assistant. So let's go ahead and download those. We want to push those out. And that's the element that allows us to have a nice seamless sign-in integration, both for subscription activation and for consumption of the data that's on the 365 services. So I've downloaded those. So recall, we watched this in the self-service. It also installed this Outlook for 2010 update patch, KB. So I want to go and pull that source down. I want to go ahead and take care of applying that. I don't want each user to have to deal with installing that patch. So we can go and pull those bits down as well. That's great. Now I have a nice package of all the bits. And now we're going to think about, before we continue here, I'm going to jump back to the PowerPoint for just a moment. There we are. So what's next? So I've gathered up source, all those components. Now I want to think about preparing Office Pro Plus. And what does that really mean? That means we're going to extract those big Office XCs out. We're going to merge that together. So I want to do multiple languages, and I want to have one single source location. I want to get those admin tools out so I can actually prepare one proper source location for everything. So let's look at how we do this. So again, not technically challenging, just a matter of us walking through this process of, hey, I need to get these bits. Let's gather them up. And the same way if I were going to volume license a download center, just go in a different location. A few other things to keep in mind. My end goal is to get to a manageable set of bits. So first thing I want to do, remind myself, how do I turn this package into something useful? All right. Oh, yeah, there's just simple extract. Once I extract this out, I'm going to have something that, if you're doing managed deployments, you're going to have an Office package that looks a lot more like what you're probably used to seeing, not just a single exe, but you're going to see all the application folders, the Pro Plus, XX folder. You're going to see the updates folder, all those things that you should be expecting to see, and you probably first got this thing and went, how do I manage this? By taking it into this structure, it allows management tools such as MDT to be able to recognize it as Office. This is also required because we want to do not just one single language, we're going to do two languages. So we're going to repeat this process again. So we're going to extract out, take a look here. What did I just extract? So as I mentioned, I got my applications for English. Let's repeat that process then again for a Spanish package. So I'm going to end up with two extracted versions of Office. That's great. That's still a bit unwieldy to manage. I don't need to manage two separate sources. I don't want two setup XCs. I want one source set. So what we're going to do is merge those together in a bit. But hey, I'm also going to want to put an OCT in with this. So I'm going to fire up the admin download. It extracts itself out, says, where do you want to put my stuff? We'll go ahead and put it here in that location. And it delivers a few different things. It delivers the admin templates themselves, group policy admin templates, but also delivers the admin folder, which includes the OCT tool. Okay, now we're ready to merge our sources. So I'm going to quickly let this happen. I'm going to just take all my source from English. I'm going to take my source from Spanish. I'm going to merge these together. So I'm just going to copy this over, and I'm going to copy the components from the OCT tool. So I'll go through that process. In short, we're going to end up with one single package. Okay, I'm going to jump ahead. I want to make sure we have time to get through all the sections here. So I've jumped ahead, and we have our single Outlook patch we want to get applied. Again, if I want to take advantage of this, I'm going to extract this guy out. So I'm going to go and extract it out as well. We'll take care of applying it a little bit later. So we've extracted everything out. And we're ready now to move into the next phase. Pause that, and we'll go back to the process flow here. So what are we just going to recap? Went through that quick, but there's just a lot of typing, extracting, merging, a lot of value add for you there. So we've extracted the source, we merged it, we extracted the admin tools and merged those in. So we have one nice, concise source package that I can work with. Now I want to think about, I want to customize this. I want to turn off some features, set some default options that fit my organization. How do I do that? I'm going to use OCT, or the Office Customization Tool. I want to make sure that that patch is getting applied, and make sure we're, because we're doing multiple languages, I want to make sure I set up the languages for installation as well. So back to where we left off. So we're going to complete this. So setup exe/admin, since I've put that folder in there. OCT tool launches, great. Lots of options here. If you've been through any of our other sessions, we've gone through this in a lot of detail this week. For discussion today, just to set a couple things, I'm going to set it to no dialogue, so I can do a totally silent install. The activation stuff there doesn't matter. We're going to take care of this via subscription, so while it asks for KMS or Mac activation, we can ignore that. So I'm going to save that off. I've created an MSP we're going to refer to. But there's one other thing that desktop setup does, and that sets registry keys. And I don't want each user to have to run that. So wait, OCT can lay down registry keys at time of setup. So when I go just reference what was documented as the keys that are required, boop, boop, boom, I come in and document this in here, and now I've got my registry keys in one single package. It will get applied at setup, so I can take care of these things for myself. So we continue on. We follow the guidelines here, so I'd repeat this for my SharePoint sites. And then we're going to save this off as one single customization package. So we repeat this. So there's actually two separate keys for separate zones. And then we'll be ready to go, and this will get taken care of. The Office installer will realize, hey, you asked me to customize at time of install, so I can take care of these things. Okay, so we're going to go save this. We're going to save this by default. We're going to go and just put it in the updates folder. I'm going to make this super simple. I have one package I'm rolling out. There's lots of patches that are already in here that are part of the core download you receive. So in the beta, there's already patches applied, so don't be alarmed, there's stuff there. We named ours 1_ because we want it to be processed first. That's a golden rule of working with OCT MSP files. Okay, so we have extracted this out. This patch out last time, I need to make sure that patch is also getting applied. So this is the one patch we have to take care of for Office Pro Plus 365. It's going to drop it in the updates folder. That MSP will also get processed. So I don't have to do a post-install patching. I'll have all of it there, and it'll get processed all at one time. So one other configuration we need to take care of, since we're doing multiple languages, is how do we control what languages are actually being applied? So I can't actually control or configure the language installations with the OCT. The only way I can control that is with the config XML. So calling that out if I'm doing multiple languages, remember, separate tool for that. So I'm just going to come in and say, shall transform my default language being English, but I'm also going to make Spanish available. So that's all we need to do to set that up. Again, lots of other potential options and configurations. We're trying to keep this straight and narrow. What's a process you need to walk through here? So we save that, and again, that's in the Pro Plus sub folder, which is a little bit different. Obviously, we can tell it's the subscription version. So the last phase, we hit the right button here. The last phase is actually taking this and building it into a task sequence, or how am I going to put it into a deployment script. So I'm going to use an example of sticking these into MDT as applications and building a task sequence with it. I now have bits, configuration, and customizations that I can take through really any of the channels that we talk about in standard Office deployment, barring virtualization, of course, as we mentioned before. So pretty simple thing to do here. Just any of you used the MDT toolkit in the past to build images? A few of you. So I've already launched up MDT. I've come in and actually defined, I've already pulled both of these in as applications. So I just pointed to the source, pulls in the source. So I've pulled in 2 applications, the 2 things I need to install, which is the sign-in assistant, which I can point to, a quiet command to make it a silent install. And then I can go through the same process for Office. But you notice Office, you get an extra tab up here. It realizes, hey, that's Office. I get MDT has some special configuration there. So I could have actually chosen to say, I didn't need to do the config XML manually. I could have allowed MDT to control that for me. So depending on what you're doing, can make your life a little bit easier. So very simple task sequence we've built here. I'm going to jump ahead to the point where we're actually deploying this. So I just created a couple step task sequence, general task sequence. Hey, can we deploy this silently? Yes, we can. Here, it'll start here in a moment, I hope. Yeah, we are. So it's going to kick off, totally silent install. I'm getting my Office client bits. I'm getting the required patches, my customization, and getting to the sign-in assistant down. So there's your managed deployment. Totally silent to the user, doesn't require their interaction. With this, would it get you thinking, okay, we've thought about just subscription and activation up to this point. Don't forget about these other things. What are the other considerations? I need to make sure my existing Office files will be compatible. When you think about languages, you look at that, what are you going to do with those? What's my user management strategy going to be? What's my deployment infrastructure, which will impact how I build those images or the source files? Hey, we can use the same planning tools that we use for Pro Plus 2010. So we have application compatibility tools around the Office Migration Planning Manager to help you identify file format issues. We have the Office Environment Assessment tool to help you look at solutions or third-party add-ins. So you can use all those tools. Connectivity is an important thing to think about here. Make sure you're thinking about, hey, these users are going to need to activate every month, so make sure they have a good, consistent timeline to be reconnecting and reactivating. So, broad bucket. We're really laser focused on just getting those bits put together for managed deployment. Okay, we've done managed deployment, but keep in context that we have to manage this entire process. So, how do we get ready? There is a couple new things coming for you for 365, and you get initial sneak peek of a tool here. It's not released, not even beta yet. So it's actually MAP version 6. So have any of you heard of the Microsoft Assessment and Planning Toolkit? It's a nice agentless discovery tool. So we've introduced a Office 365 client assessment element to it. So let's hop over and let's have a look at this thing. So it says here we have beta coming later this month and GA later in the year. So let's hop over to a virtual machine here. I've locked, so let's sign in quickly. And I can't type. Okay. So we have a couple things running here. So I'm going to go to my map system. So go ahead and bring this up. So it's an iteration of what you've seen before. So those of you who have seen map in the past, this probably looks pretty familiar. Oops, pardon me. So you can see we have map. Why I'm having issues. I'm going to full screen this for you so you can see as much as we can. So map is running for us already. I pulled up here. You can see it's version 6 build. That's great. Everything looks sort of similar. I've already carried out an assessment, so I have a handful of machines I've assessed. If you're not familiar with this agentless discovery, I can come in and set up an assessment pretty quickly, say, hey, what types of computers do I want to discover? How do I want to discover them? Do I want to use AD? Do I want to use other networking? It can crawl the network, find all those machines. What we're going to gather up for you for 365 is, one, you're going to see, in addition to a lot of these other assessment reports that are out there, we have a new one. We have 365 readiness listed here. So that's new. That's cool. Let's go check that out. So in the 365 assessment, we're going to do two primary views of this. We're going to do a all-up client readiness. Is it ready to run the 365 client components? And it's going to break these. The initial view is breaking this into, is it 365 ready or is it not ready? Or we can scan, which in our scan, we didn't have that problem. And then secondly, we break that into, okay, if I've discovered you have an Office client there, is that Office client capable of running with Office 365? I didn't mention this before. To take advantage of those Office 365 services, it's Office Pro Plus in the 365 service, but I could also use Office Pro Plus 2010. I could use Office 2007 SP2, not Office 2003. I can also use Office for Mac 2008 or 2011. So we'll actually look at those clients and say, hey, yeah, these are or are not ready. Might require an upgrade. It's also a nice reference point of what are the other readiness tools we have. So this is very focused, as you can see, on the in-client computers. Then there's additional tools available to help you think about migrating your Exchange mailboxes, migrating your security information. So we're going to give you a quick link to those tools, to the community support. There's some great content there. What does the ultimate report look like? In this pre-beta, we are only making available the raw report, not the proposal. It is in the plans to deliver both a proposal being the kind of executive summary of how ready we are to take advantage of these services, so have additional views and pivots broken out for you. The report's the raw data. If I want to answer more questions, I can easily glean that out of this information. So get my high-level view here. What's the count? How does it actually break out? But then we have a overall assessment. And this is nice because I can see by computer name. Let's look at the ones that maybe are not ready. Let's try to find out what's going on with those. I can filter down to that. Reasons for that recommendation is, it actually just needs a .NET Framework upgrade. Maybe it needs more memory. You'll get different items here, unsupported OS. So we can see all those different elements. And just gathered lots of raw data here. Is the OS compatible? Is .NET compatible? Browser compatible? Office Suite. So it takes care of all those things you're going to have to think about. Nice, concise report for you. So coming very soon. Where are you going to get this? Microsoft.com/map. Look for the beta announcement out there, and you'll be able to go get it. Again, it's free, so GA this summer. So we'll wrap up here with I've deployed it, got things working, but might have some issues. How do I think about troubleshooting activation and the unique subscription elements? A few things we can look at there. We've already shown you, looking at the backstage, I can see its licensing status. I can check service connectivity. We're going to make sure we have connection. We have stuff in the event logs. Things we'll focus in on are these elements of resetting license status. So if I'm reprovisioning a machine or a user's gone away and leave for several months, obviously they're going to go out of compliance. The machine hasn't been on. There's unique licensing commands called OSAUI or OSAUI with different switches that will control, we can reset the machine back to kind of initial state, reprompt for credentials and get things started again. /F is probably the most widely used one. It actually reprovisions. Is, this is an RFM. This reprovisions, sets me back to initial state and lets me get started again. So if I'm repurposing a machine, reinstalling, that's the command we're going to want to use. OSAUI R is an interesting one. We said we allow up to 5 installs for one user. I can use OSAUI R to get a check of that. So we'll use that command here walk through a few of these. Obviously, I can always uninstall, reinstall, repair my program as well. We have local install source, so it really isn't a problem. You won't get the old 2003 way of asking you for a disk. So we're going to jump to a different machine, and conveniently, we just finished our deployment. That's up here. Let's go ahead and full screen this VM as well. So we just completed deployment, and the user, gets the dialog, hey, things are ready to go. Sorry, there's too many scroll bars for me to navigate. I'm going to close the browser for just a moment. There's the dialog. I lost it. So the user, was initially prompted. So I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to just walk through kind of a simple scenario of activating to a different user. So let's go ahead and say I know my credentials. So I'm Zane S, and I have my credentials ready to go. I've been waiting for this new Office 365 thing. I'm going to go and sign in here. So this is the first run experience. Pro. Wow, my typing skills are astounding today. So we'll go ahead and get signed in, if Ryan can type. So we're going to switch our user here. So I'm going to be myself then. Okay. I'm going to move on to something else then. Let's walk through these reset commands that we mentioned before. If the user at this point in time, and I think this has to do with if I want to use the OSAWI commands to control the activation, where are those located? Those are actually in program files and common files in Microsoft Shared and Office 14. We'll find this. Okay, so we'll want to make note. And if you look online on our support forums, we make note of this. So I don't want to type that path, so I'm going to just open a command window here. So let's go ahead and throw this guy in here. I said let's do a /r. Let's find out. Let's do a reset here. So I'm going to get prompted. Actually, let's start. So, pardon me. I want to cancel this for 1 second. I had a typo here. I actually want to do a reset, so I'm going to do /f. So I'm going to reprovision out the original key. So it's doing more than just prompting for credentials again. This is actually resetting the status back to the initial out-of-the-box key. So then after that's done, it's going to say, hey, go ahead and provide your credentials for logon. So it'll take just a moment for that to complete. I hope. So what's going on behind the scenes? We're using the local install cache to be able to make this update. So that's very convenient. Give a nice dialog here. We're complete. And now we're going to be prompted. So I'm going to be Brian at Office IT Pro.on Microsoft. So this, if you've signed up for beta, you probably noticed this naming convention. So I just have an out-of-the-box domain set up here. Now I'm very paranoid of my password for you. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take those credentials, reach out, and verify that I have a valid subscription. Great, I do. I hope I do. And what did it do? It sent a key back, and we're actually now up and activated. So if I go into Backstage, Save Word. We looked at that before. I should be able to see that I indeed have a valid subscription going on, and that it is a subscription-based agent. So we go into Help, and here in the Backstage, I see that it is activated, and I see that indeed it is subscription. Okay? So say I want to reprovision this account or this computer to someone else. Well, let's first do the /r. So let's look at, I've forgotten, what all computers did I install this on? The user themselves can inquire this. So one thing you might actually consider doing is putting these as shortcuts in the Microsoft Office deployment, so you don't have to tell the user how to go execute these things if you want them to be able to carry them out. So one thing to consider in your deployment. So /r is going to do a couple things. It's going to ask me for my credentials, and it's going to cause it to go query out and figure out where are the machines that I've actually activated on or that have valid and active subscriptions on. So it verifies that indeed I do have a valid subscription again before it lets me continue here. And this dialog is, by default, pops up if I'm on my 6th machine. 6th machine comes along and goes, hey, you're full. Which one do you get rid of? So it's nice that I can actually remove the current activation from a machine without going to it. So you can see here I have the machine we just activated, the machine that's actually on the demo floor we could play with them, and another test machine we have here. So you can quickly see this. And this is, the user gets this primarily when they hit that 6th machine, but I can also carry this out. As an admin, this has to be, as you saw, it has to be carried out in the user context with their current credentials. So we as an administrator can't go invoke this for them without getting the user involved to do this. So let's go through one more scenario here. What happens when I remove someone's access? I'm going to wrench over to another user. So I'm going to reset back out. We're going to become a different user for a moment. So we're going to put ourselves back at an initial state. Take just a moment for that to complete. So this is the example of, maybe it's a contractor you have on site. You want to provision, you need them to have access to this temporarily, but you want to have a nice way of managing, what happens to your software when that contractor, walks out the door. So I've set up a user account. So we're going to be Zane. And that same domain here. We're going to sign. We're going to get initial activation. Or we won't. I'll go back and be Brian. We'll mess with Brian for a moment. Okay. So the other thing we want to walk through then, we said the other thing we need to make sure is we have continued connectivity to that. How do I verify that I actually have, that my clients can connect properly? We provide an online service that you can call to check, are my clients going to be able to successfully connect to the activation service. And this is our support portal information page. I'm going to hit this site, and you're going to do it a test site. And if we can connect to it and we can create a service, that's confirmation that indeed we can go out and connect to the activation service and connect to it. So those are kind of the high-level things you want to double-check for. Like, yes, this user can connect on a frequent basis, and that they indeed do have the plumbing to get there. So what are the other resources you can use for 365? Get a beta account. That's the best way you're going to be able to play with this. Check it out. So if you haven't done so, sign up, use them. Don't just sign up, but actually use them, install it, start a small pilot program. I can run this side by side. If you have Office 2010 or Office 2007 on your PCs at work or your play machines, you can get started right away. Once you have that service, you can connect to it, get things going. Our blog sites. One thing I want to call note to is a Jumpstart training session going on next week. It's an online event. So you can go to this URL, register for the Jumpstart training. Gives you an entire end-to-end Office 365 deployment information. We've run these kind of worldwide for partners and customers as we've done kind of early beta. We're going to make this available to everyone, or broadly available, so you can get to see what the 365 platform is about, drill down on Exchange online, and Link and SharePoint online. And Office Pro Plus in this as well. So you follow, there's only one session left on here, but you can check those out online post-event as well. Related content, as I said, when we think about deploying Office Pro Plus for 365, the same content that we talk about in Office Client, Office Pro Plus 2010, has relevance here. Like, we're deploying the bits. We walk through the process how to take those bits from the 365 service, turn them into a manageable set of bits. Now, what's that mean? All the sessions we are doing, talking about planning for and packaging and customizing Office 2010, they directly apply to Office Pro Plus 365 deployments as well. So just because you're thinking about deploying 365, remember the Office in Office 365 is still Office, so this stuff has direct applicability. If you're looking for Office resources, the one best resource to get started, OfficeITBureau.com, and follow us on Twitter. So if there's any questions, we'll be glad to try to help you out here.
The first one is if the computer is a multi-user computer, does the activation matter regardless of who's logged in at the time?
Yeah, so the question was, if I have an admin scenario where maybe it's a shared kiosk computer or something, do they all have to have active accounts at any given time? Each user will have to have their own active 365 account to take, to use Exchange Online, et cetera. The reality of the Office subscription activation, the first person who activates, it actually activates the account or decrements the account against that first one. The activation's at the machine ID, not at a user ID. So the subsequent person who comes on, Office would say, hey, I'm already activated, and it would not prompt user number 2 for their credentials. So it would continue to operate silently and be happy, keeping everybody running under user number 1, as long as that person has a valid subscription. Any point in time, that person goes away, we can use an OSAWI command and swap it over to any other user. But I don't need to reinstall, but I do need to take care of getting it to reprompt for new credentials if that user number 1 leaves. But it can be a user adoption thing to, hey, we're in a shared machine. If you're not the first user, it's okay if you don't get prompted for credentials. That make sense? Sure.
That being the case, is there a way to determine who the activation or the license has been activated under?
The question is, in that scenario, then, can I come, and you're referring to as an administrator or someone who doesn't have knowledge about it, okay, can I come on and query the machine to figure out who actually activated that machine? There's not an out-of-the-box provided way to do that. It's meant to be, you saw the OSIOE command, you done under the user context, and that information is not reported or available on the 365 portal. Any other questions? How many of you actually have deployed Office Pro Plus for 365? Actually taken those bits and set up, actually made your count change that you're actually using some? But Richard has. All right, at least a couple of you. Any issues, any surprises when you did that?